Alright, so today we're talking about Labyrinth of the Demon King. It's a pretty good first-person slasher that nearly perfectly mixes Silent Hill with feudal Japan, unlike the much less perfect and pretty flawed Silent Hill meets feudal Japan game I covered last week. To be fair, I was trying to do the 60s Japan as well. But before we get into the rest of it, if you're interested in another horror indie game, check this out. What Happens After Midnight, my action survival horror game, is available right now. You're sent to investigate the town of Night Vale and quickly find out interdimensional forces are invading our world. Hop between worlds, meet strange characters, and survive cosmic horrors once you find out what happens after midnight. Also, any feedback is greatly appreciated. Let's start with the gameplay. The combat is very basic, but it also feels pretty good. You have 4 moves: attack, which is self-explanatory, parry, which is good, and also easy enough for someone like me who almost never parries to do it relatively consistently. I would have not used the parry like I usually do, but you pretty much have to in this game because your movement speed is pretty slow. There is a dodge button, but it's on a pretty long cooldown, and the enemy usually catches right back up to you anyway, almost immediately, so it's mostly useless, actually. Lastly, you have the kick, which stuns them. It's good a lot of the time, but it's not as reliable as the parry. The weapons are good, but there are way more of them than their pretty simplistic stats on them justify. The movesets are relatively different though, to be fair. The magic spells are kind of interesting in that they're consumable items. That being said, what they actually do is good, but pretty simple. You do stuff like shoot lightning or heal yourself or whatever. There's also a gun and a bow, which are a bit overpowered, even with the fact that they have very limited ammo. This is especially true against bosses. There is an upgrade system for yourself and your gear, which is simple but good, and I bet by now you're seeing a pattern with that. The enemies are decent but don't have very good variety. Gameplay-wise, they do have good variety aesthetic-wise. There's also an unkillable stalker guy that chases you sometimes, but he's not as good as someone like Mr. X, because the hallways are a lot narrower and he shows up a lot more often. He really ends up coming off as kind of annoying. The bosses are okay, but they're a bit too easy. The items in this game make a big difference. It's especially true for bosses, but true everywhere else. It's weirdly overpowered in a way just to save up a bunch of items. They do try to nerf it in ways like giving you a pretty low inventory limit for the items, and also that item use persists after death, but you can always just save scum that, and you can still do a lot with your small inventory. It is nice that the power of items makes exploration rewarding though, I'll say that. There's good structural level design, the areas are fun to explore. Sometimes it's a bit too easy to get lost, but it's mostly fine. The game has good survival horror, lock and key progression, and has some Dark Souls style shortcuts mixed in, which are also good. The story is mostly told through notes, and I usually don't dig through notes. From what I caught of the story, it was decent. Apparently it's very loosely based off an old Japanese story. The aesthetics in this game are excellent, especially everything to do with the atmosphere. It really combines the liminality and sometimes harsh cruelty of the Silent Hill aesthetics with a very rustic and grimy version of feudal Japan. There's very good coloring with a grungy red and brown color palette. The PS1 styling looks good and feels authentic. There's some pretty good music. There's also some good Silent Hill style aggressive ambient noise. There's also some pretty good creature designs. Overall, Labyrinth of the Demon King doesn't exactly have very innovative gameplay, but it does still feel fun to play, and it has fantastic aesthetics that create a horrifyingly fun world to explore. I'm giving it a 8.71. Thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.